every day. In many facets of life, people are always learning something new. The same holds true in the world of automobiles. New innovations and all sorts of vehicular problems abound. It often pays to know as much as possible about your car. Now, learning about our cars does not mean we have to get our hands dirty. But a basic knowledge and understanding could help us explain what might be wrong with our cars. Let's listen to this individual as he sheds some light on car maintenances and basic problems. Who knows? We just might learn something new.
Okay, here we go again. We're going on this ride again called Automedics ride. And what we're doing today, we're still talking about the cooling system. You know, we talk about the thermostat, the cooling fan, but let's now go to the radiator. People believe that we have part of the tropicalization is changing our radiator to a double cell or a larger radiator. Why do we have to put a larger radiator? Why don't we sit down for a minute and consider the fact that the engineer that designed this vehicle already did his own research, considering different regions of the world, that what if this vehicle end up in this region? Will this radiator fit the purpose it's designed for? Yes, all these things have been considered, but in Nigeria we like to do everything our own way. We like to tropicalize, because that's the key word that the mechanics here use, tropicalization. When you put a larger volume or a double cell radiator, it's the same thing as removing your thermostat or directing your fan, because you have to look at it this way. When you put a larger volume radiator or a double cell, so-called double cell radiator, you've increased the volume of coolant that's supposed to be in that engine compartment, in the engine. Mind you, there's going to be coolant, constant coolant in the engine block, in the cylinder head, or in all the holes and galleys that's supposed to have coolant. There's going to be coolant in there that's already filled in there, and the radiator will have, and this thing is flowing around. When you have a larger volume now, and you have the radiator fan direct, it takes a while for that coolant to warm up. So what are you doing in effect? You're still doing the same thing as removing the thermostat, directing the fan. You're still losing money. Why? How are we losing money? Because we are burning so much fuel. It takes a while for the engine to get to an optimum temperature. When your engine doesn't get to optimum temperature, you're building so much carbon in your engine. When you're building carbon, you're reducing the lifespan of that engine. And so many other things will follow. Building sludge, because all this carbon, it's what forms into sludge in your engine. So it's not really okay. The radiator too has some other device on it, the cap, the radiator cap. Once this thing is removed or you're taking it off every day, on and off every day, you run the risk of damaging the seals on the cap. Once the seals is damaged, of course, it's just a matter of time when you start losing coolant through that cap, because the seal integrity has been compromised. It's not holding the pressure that's supposed to be built up inside the radiator or the cooling system, as we say. And once you start losing this pressure, of course you're losing, because it's going to be coming out in a steam form. And this steam, after a while, will reduce. Once you start losing that steam around that cap, you're losing coolant. And once you lose so much coolant, without you knowing, you run the risk of the vehicle or the engine overheating. Removing thermostat, directing the fan, changing to a larger volume. You guys remember back in the days when we have to pull a choke? You remember? You have a choke. When we have the carbureted system, you have to pull a choke in the morning to start your vehicle. Once you pull this choke, what do you think you're doing? You're telling the engine, I need more fuel. And you open the floodgate. The same thing you are doing when you compromise all this stuff we talked about. Your thermostat, directing your fan, changing to a larger volume or to a double cell radiator. And one of the things that I need to let you guys know about your radiator is when your radiator is bad, you can replace it, or if you can find a good radiator technician that can fix your radiator, all they have to do is clean the cells. And it's not just about opening the top tank, you have to open the lower tank. What do I mean about the tanks? You remember those things that covers where the cap goes on? Those things you see is the cap. The fins are where the wind, the air goes through to cool the radiator so that it can pull the heat out of the cooling system. Now, when the radiator gets clogged up, the sediment sits at the bottom. There's no way you will know. And once the sediment sits at the bottom, it's going to restrict the flow of coolant. It's the same thing as if a thermostat is stuck closed. That's the same thing that happens when sediment forms. And what causes sediment? This is something that we'll be talking about and we'll be analyzing again next time, because then we'll be going into the coolant itself. We're looking at the coolant, what constitutes the coolant we use. Of course, you guys will be wondering, what's coolant? We're talking of your antifreeze. Water is the same thing as coolant. You can call water coolant. So these are some of the things we'll be talking about when we go on this journey again. But today, right now, we're going to be packing the ride for today. Until next time when we go on Automedics ride with you guys again. We'll see you next time.